You're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Hello? Is that the famous astronomer, Sir Patrick Moore?
It is, very much so.
Any news on the space front?
Quite so. Elon Musk has just designed and developed 5 gigantic, state-of-the-art rocket ships. All members of Parliament, along with the American Senate, have first-class tickets aboard them, you see. They're told they're going to the moon.
Told? Where exactly are they going, Sir Patrick?
The new anomaly discovered recently astronomically. A huge black hole.
Welcome to Twin Souls. Twin Souls is brought to you in association with the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Your hosts, Philip and Ronnie Kinsella. Now, we have a very special guest on today, and her name is Connie Willis. And Connie is a professional broadcaster of 20 years, including Disney, Oxygen Network, ESPN, Speed, QVC, HSN, and more. Currently, you can find her on Blue Rock Talk TV with Connie Willis, Connie After Dark, and the Great Coast to Coast AM radio show. Connie's latest project takes you to creepy hotspots live. She streams real investigations of Bigfoot, strange lights, and hauntings that you participate in. Her shows are membership community with others of like mind and real encounters of these things that are not supposed to exist. And you can find Connie on her website, www.conniewillis.com. That's www.conniewillis.com. You can find all her information there. So we've got to say a big welcome to you, Connie. How are you?
It's nice to be on your show. Thank you so much. I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Yes, we had a few technical issues, but we kind of got through that. But, I want you, Connie, to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, because you're certainly a very interesting soul. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved in the paranormal.
Well, all my life, I always knew I wanted to be in broadcasting of some sort, whether it was film or television, never really radio. I never thought that until I was in college, and my professor at the time, Clay Gauntz, I'll never forget his name. He had said, all right, you guys write down the 3 things you want to do, your goals of broadcasting, what you want to do in the order you want to do it. And I was just film and TV. And he was like, well, what's your 3rd one? I'm like, I guess I'll write down radio. He goes, why do you act like that? I said, because I don't really want radio. I never thought about radio. And he said, that's going to be your best basis. And, lo and behold, even before I graduated, I happened to do, I had a broadcasting, it was a radio class, and it was doing a commercial, a spot, and we had to highly produce it, and all the studios on campus were taken. And so oddly enough, me and a friend of mine were out the night before, and we met these 2 guys that said they were morning show guys at a local radio show. We're like, yeah, all right, what line are they going to give us, and they gave me their card, and I needed a studio. So I called up the guy and said, if you guys are for real, I need a studio to do my final. Can I come there to do it? And they were like, absolutely. Well, they hired me from that. And before I even graduated, I started doing overnights in radio, and my professor at the time was totally correct. It is the best basis for doing any type of television or film because radio is live. And if you can, that's all saves money if you're doing television or film. They don't want someone that has to do a take after take after take, because time is money. And they love when someone can just do it, at one point, just do a take quickly. And live radio teaches that. It teaches you how to fall down and get right back up, and don't worry if you fall down again. So I've been dubbed One Take Willis, and I like it. It's okay. And because of that, I got into, what I've always known I've wanted to do since I was a little bitty. I had never understood why people never knew what they wanted to do. But yeah, actually a psychic at one point told me, and I didn't solicit it. He just told me, it was a question I always had in my mind, but he said, and that's why you've always known what you wanted to do, because you did this in another life. And I was like, oh, wow, that makes sense. From there, I had learned along the way that there's certain, when I did stuff for Disney, it was fun, Disney's just fun. And then I did some, one show leads to the next show, leads to the next show. And along the way on those shows, as a broadcaster, as a professional host, you learn to learn things quickly and then spit it right back out as if you really know your stuff. And you should know your stuff. And I was one of those people that would really work hard to know what I was talking about. I got to tell you, when I was in car racing, I know it's cool, it's fun, it's all that kind of thing, but I'm a feature person. I'm not someone that can lift up a hood and tell you what it is. And I was kind of put in those types of positions where I was like, this is not my passion. But I learned at that point too, I went, oh, that's what it is. I can be a host and be a broadcaster, but it'd be really great one day if I can do, not study so hard for something, but find my passion. And I thought, what is my passion, to be able to compare that or marry it with my career? And that was paranormal, UFO. I hate the word paranormal, but, anything beyond, right? And so I thought, well, that is my passion, because I grew up always dealing with it. It was, started at the typical haunted house kind of thing. And always as a kid knew there was something in the house that I couldn't see, knew and felt there was a presence. When I got really good at feeling where that presence was. And the reason why was because I wanted to be on the other side of the house of wherever that was, scared to death as a kid. And it was there. I did not sleep, you guys, one night until I went away to college freshman year. I remember feeling good the next morning going, why do I feel so good? Because I actually slept through the night, not concerned that there was something looking at me. And from there, it led to, UFO type things and alien type things, just being open to those things and being led through either films or happenings or what you see in the sky or what happens in the home you go to, whatever. And then it led to remote viewing, which was incredible, and getting certified for that. And, and each thing just leads to another. At one point, because I was in film and television along the way, at one point, because people knew I was into this, they had me looking for documentaries that were paranormal type documentaries of any sort for their site. And as I was doing that, that's how it was led into a Bigfoot area, what I never thought I would even decide to even look into or even think about. Just never thought about it. It wasn't like, no, get me away from that. It was just never thought about it. And it happened to be right after I really studied abductees and abduction for a long time. And I found that the people that were talking about Bigfoot were saying the same types of things that people would talk about as they were abducted. And so my whole stick is, because everybody's got a stick, I guess. You guys are twins. We got people that are only Bigfoot, right, and only UFO, and only this or that. But I like to go deeper into it, and I like to just look at all the similarities and the differentiations of each. So that's kind of my answer to your question of broadcasting and then this. And hey, now I'm on Coast to Coast, and I love that. And I do my own show, like you said, Project Creepy Hotspots. I take people to creepy hotspots, and you guys are welcome to come at any time.
It's really interesting, Connie, because, when, you find yourself within these areas of the supernatural, and yes, we hate the word, but it's the only definition that we can give so that most of the public can understand, along with ufology,
Yes.
It kind of changes you as an individual. So do you think and feel, Connie, that your life was changed or in any way? Because when we get to your experiences a little later, you find that you kind of like are driven down this dark road or down the rabbit hole, as they say.
So you think so the question was, do I think I went the wrong way maybe, or?
No, do you believe in life being preordained? Because it appears to me that, you spoke about remote viewing and about Yeti and UFOs, and yes, there must be connections, but your life has changed.
And also the psychic had told Connie that you'll be doing this. So that's interesting.
Wasn't that cool? Yeah, I had another person do a reading at one point, and I was up for a TV show for, I think it was, I can't remember, it might have even been Ghost Hunters. Some of the shows that I'm sure you guys get over there. I don't know how that works, but it was, ended up being a huge show if you didn't know that one. And I remember I didn't get whatever the show was, so maybe it wasn't even that one because it didn't even go through. But I remember the psychic looking up at me and just going, "This will define you." And now, I just wonder about that now. I'm like, I think that they saw that back then, how you guys can do that. It's amazing. But yeah, it was kind of like this and just astonished. So I thought I was going to get the gig, and looking back at it, the gig ended up not happening at all for whatever reason, but he was still so sure of what was to come. And, I just, maybe this is the definition of me, all this that's happening now, but I don't know. It does lead, one thing does lead to another. I know that. And the other psychic, Dr. Hoover. I'll never forget Dr. Hoover, man. He looked at me like that old English teacher that you don't want to get, that you end up getting like in the 5th grade or something, the one pointing his fingers at you. I was like, I had made a deal with God. I said, it was on my 40th birthday. I said, I want to know why I'm here. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening, because I feel like, something is, I did feel like something had more of a control of me. Something was doing what it wanted instead of what I wanted. I think it was kind of going against the grain. And I was like, I want to know what this is all about, because I know I didn't come here for this, what was going on in my life. And so I went to what's called Camp Casadega. It's outside of Orlando. It's an area of psychics that live there after they've tested to be able to live in the community. It's really interesting. You would love it. If you ever come to go to the state of Florida, that's where I'm going to direct you all to go there, because you'll love it. But I made my little commitment with God. I said, God, take me to the right psychic. I'm going to drive around, put them outside the yard, put them somewhere where I can see them. Let me know which one to go to, because you get a choice of what psychic to go to. And if they're working that day. And lo and behold, the very first house on the left in this incredible community was Dr. Hoover. And I was like, no. And I looked up at the sky, God, anybody but Dr. Hoover, no. And I tell you what, I drove around 3 different times that entire community hoping to see another one. And then finally I surrendered and said, okay, it's Dr. Hoover. But he's the one who said that, and he was really cool and great. And how things can be, you kind of fight him along the way, and then when you surrender, things are great. So it's been fun to be able to do it. It's not easy to do TV and this type of stuff, because you kind of can't do anything else afterwards. Nobody wants you, really. They think you're a freaking total nutcase, don't they? If you're, UFOs, the Bigfoots are real. Yeah, they are. They are real.
You what's interesting is that, as you said, it's as if, this is Ronnie, you were meant to take this avenue, because you said about the entity in the house that you were frightened of. Did you feel that this entity was rather malevolent, or was it kind, or did it just freak you out?
you're a little kid and you just know that there's something there that you know it's there, but you don't see it. You know it's close to you. You know it's looking at you.
Yeah.
You know it's around. You know even where it might be in the room. And when you're laying there in bed and you know something's looking over you and you're just like, what is it? What is going on? And it constantly does it. And I don't know why that throwing that blanket around you feels like you're safe. I don't know why we get that sense of security, but we do.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do as a little kid, right? You can't go, Mom and Dad, okay, let's move. Come on, let's go. Let's move. Sell the house. Let's get another one. Yeah, right. We just moved here. I did not. Okay, now as a kid, right? You're afraid. You don't know. My sister had also agreed that it was there. My mom would agree that it was there. And later in life, I found out that one of my brothers actually also believed. But I didn't know until years later when I had actually experienced something evil did I realize that ghost growing up was not evil.
Okay, right.
That's just scary as a kid.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us about that, Connie?
Oh, the scary evil one?
Yeah.
Oh
no! That's a story. That's a story.
It's really strange, Connie, because people like us, when we get involved with this subject matter, with the strange and the weird and the what they call the paranormal, it kind of changes you and separates you from the hub of those people that don't have the experiences. So obviously, I think perhaps that there must be a universal message somewhere in that, because people who do have these experiences with UFOs or Yeti or whatever are changed and sometimes not always for the right reasons. Now I know that you've had a few experiences with what they call the Sasquatch or Yeti, and some of them are really quite scary. I mean, do you want to fill in what happened within this period of your life, Connie?
Yeah, it's just interesting across the board. You can't really put your finger on any of it, I think. I mean, you can touch on everything, right? And do your best to, I don't know, figure it out. I guess as humans, we want to figure it out. But certainly the curiosity is there. Well, so how can I put all this together? So basically, okay, so with my show, The Creepy Hotspots, which is, it's under Blue Rock Talk. The show's called Blue Rock Talk. And I do a Far Out Thursday, which you guys are going to be on soon. And then I can't wait. That'll be fun. And then I do a Bigfoot Friday, which is all about Bigfoot, obviously. And then this Creepy Hotspots. And this is the why I put it together. So I'm getting to your answer is, okay, so I take you investigating live. Virtually, you're with me, you're a part of it, you see what's going on lurking behind me, tell me what to do. If we're doing Bigfoot and we have a gifting table, you can suggest whatever, just like you're there. We have a lot of veterans in the show. We have a lot of people that'll never, ever in their life ever get to go, much less know where creepy hotspots are, but to even get there. Because, I go to the active ones that I know someone either has a relationship there, it's active. So far, we've had 100% batting average, boom, of activity every time we've gone. And there are situations, you guys know there's buildings you can go to or homes you can go to and pay $100 and investigate it through that night. But then, you still got to fly there or drive there or whatever you got to do to get there. Well, if you go Bigfooting or go up to mountains anywhere with these types of places, people will take you and they charge you anywhere from a ticket for $400 up to like $2,500, and some things even more. And that's not transportation, flight, airfare, getting there, gear, tents, RVs, food, all that stuff, right? So this is a membership site. What I have, by the way, it's like $50, and I got a coupon for you guys so people can get 20% off if they'd love to join. Because I know people out where you are love this kind of stuff. I love you guys. I love Paul Sinclair. I know that we're all the real deal. So if anybody's interested, boom. But the reason all this came about was because in experiencing these things, like you had asked, that I'm going to give you those stories because they were so freaking real and it was happening. And, you get so tired of people going, no, that's not real. You're just a flake. You're just this, you're just that. And you just look at them like, well, go with me. You want to go? You want to see? I had a guy at a bar one time. Well, it wasn't a bar, but I was up at the bar eating, when you do that thing when you're single, you go up to the bar and eat. And so the dude next to me, we started talking and, hey, if you want to throw something at me and, I'm going to throw it back at you. And boom, I threw back the Bigfoot thing and he stopped and he looked at me and he goes, I'll pay you $100,000 to show me Bigfoot. And I looked at him. I was like, give me your card. Then COVID hit and he needed the money. But darn it, it's, let's see what happens in the future. But so that was a lot of that is a part of where, hey, you know what? I've got a broadcast background. I'm tired of these shows coming to me and asking me if I want to do a show, and then they want to fake the outcomes or build this climax before a commercial. I know what I'm doing. Let me do an internet show. Let me take people virtually. I'm used to live streaming. A lot of people don't like to do that, right? They don't like to go live. Bring it on to me. I love it. And if something's going to happen to me out in there in these scary areas, because they are creepy, they are real, and I am real, I'm scared. And so I will admit to that. But if something happens to me, at least it's live and you guys are with me. I guess something carries on. But these things are real. They really do happen, and they're amazing. And I do take you to the spots that I know we have a relationship. And thank goodness, also being a part of Coast to Coast, I do get to meet even more people along the way, or they come to me because they know me through the show because it's huge, right? Thank you, God, for being on that show. And because of that, too, I can maybe have access to more really cool, creepy hotspots, and we can continue to share. And people that can't afford it, or they'll never leave the nursing home or whatever the situation they're in, they can actually do it too and be a part of it. And I've gotten some of the best letters in the world saying, thank you so much for letting me go with you to do something I'll never get to do. And they're so excited about that. And so am I. Now, speaking of Coast, just real quick, you guys are going to be on Coast with me. I'm so excited about that. And I hope I can differentiate between the both of you when we're on.
Yeah, well, you just have to say Ronnie or Philip, and then we will respond to that. But what's incredible is that your live stream shows are here in England they're starting out, but with the Bigfoot, that's really incredible. And I know you've had a few experiences, but one of the things that's really incredible is that you're absolutely right, Connie. These cases are real, even though they defy rational explanation, almost as if they're interdimensional. And we want you to be safe while you're doing them now, Connie,
Yeah, well, it's great that everybody's watching, so just in case. Well, now, okay, so you had asked about some different experiences. I get, let me just say the most interesting ones to me so far, out of my experiences, were the very first thought and memory I have in my life was in a paranormal way. And it's been that way ever since. And throughout it all, you can have different feelings of fear or concern or caution from each one, whether it's ghost, demonic, maybe you don't know what it is, ET, UFO. There's just different feelings. And the same with the Bigfoot. Now, when people say, well, you're just a Bigfoot person. No, I've been around them all, can talk about them all. There's always new things. I can just talk about what I've experienced, but it's been a lot in every one of the areas. So that's why I like to compare and stuff. But when I was introduced to the Bigfoot, which I was never thinking I was going to, but when I was pulling in paranormal documentaries for this guy, I was actually pulling them in. You guys will probably like this. I was actually pulling the documentaries in for one of the writers of the big blockbuster film Poltergeist. Remember that?
Oh, God, yes. Steven Spielberg. Wow.
He was one of the writers, so he was putting together, online. He was doing this documentary, a platform of all paranormal type things. So he had said, "Hey, you're into all this. Help me find some documentaries." So, as I was doing that, one of my favorite people is Tim Coleman. I don't know if you know Tim. He's out there where you guys are. Actually, he goes to Egypt a lot, but he did Out of the Blue. If you're familiar with that documentary on
he's always in Egypt. Yes, we know who he is.
You know Tim?
Yes.
Yeah, Tim's great. I love him.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So I had, got some from him and different people. And it was funny because when I got Tim's, I remember Mark Victor is the guy's name. I remember Mark saying something like, "Oh my gosh, you got one of the big ones." I'm like, "Well, yeah, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Hey, it's Tim. He's a friend." That's what you do though, right? That's what you do, is go for the big ones. But somebody sent me a Bigfoot one. I went, "Oh, Bigfoot. Never thought of Bigfoot." I ended up meeting all of the people, and I had experiences the first night. But I remember before even having the experiences, I interviewed some people there. And, I'm doing my own thing. This is what I do. I ask people stuff. And it just so works that I do TV and radio, right? Because it gives me the okay to go ahead and ask all these questions. It's great. I'll use it. But I was curious. But I'd ask these people, I said, "So tell me, you've experienced," I'm out in the woods with them, right? I'm in the area, and they go. So the guy told me all these people here, they've all had experiences. So I'm like, "Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know there was so much going on. I didn't know any of this was happening." So each person I would ask individually away from the others. And I'd say, "So, well, what'd you see? What was your experience?" "Well, I was sitting right over here on a rock, and I heard one over there in the woods, right over there." And they would point over to where it was or whatever. And then all of a sudden, they'd say something else, whatever their experience was. And then I'd hear another person, "Yeah, well, I'm over here by the lake, and I was fishing and just kind of looking around, and I heard one. I heard it coming. I heard it. And then all of a sudden," and I heard the same presentation each time that somebody said something. They said, "I heard one, and then all of a sudden." Now, something always huge comes after all of a sudden, right? But there was something before the all of a sudden that they were consistent as well. And that was, "I heard it. I heard it. I heard it." And so I stopped one of them and said, "Wait a minute. When you said you heard it," and they would all say they knew what it was. And I was like, What did you hear?" And this one particular person stopped, and they looked at me and they went, "Oh, well, in this one situation, it sounded as though an elephant was walking through that big amount of brush over there." I'm like, "An elephant?" They were like, "Yeah, and maybe one on it, an elephant with an elephant on its back." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's just so loud. They're so big and they're so heavy. And to me, that was extremely interesting. That was being blown off a lot on people's story, right?
Yeah.
And so they started, I started hearing, asking more about before the all of a sudden part, what happened. And they'd say, "Well, one's coming," because they actually take their arms and spread out the brush, depending on what terrain they're in, and part of the country they're in. But this particular area was Alabama in the States. And a lot of trees and woods and mountainous, but hilly mountainous, but a lot of brush and wooded area. And they said they would just spread out. You could actually literally see the forest spread, and it keep spreading and then pulling back together after it, made this pathway. And that was like one of the ways it was described. And another way, somebody said, "When you hear one walking in the woods," they said, "you'll know exactly what it is." I'm like, how will I know? And they're like, "Well, you will recognize that it's bipedal." I'm like, okay, so you'll recognize that as opposed to 4 legs and like a deer or something. Okay, but they said, how when you and I will walk in the woods and we'll kind of step on twigs and we'll hear a little cracking and a little, the leaves crackling and these, little branches that we might step on more like the twigs. Yeah. Well, they step on actual trees that have fallen, logs and huge branches and huge, the bottom parts of trees. And they snap and pop, and you will know the difference because of that alone. Because they step on that like we step on twigs, and it just pops. And lo and behold, I absolutely heard one at one point. And I went, oh, I knew what it was. That person was correct. I heard them just casually walking through the woods, like on a beautiful day, whistling. They weren't whistling, but I almost pictured it whistling, because it was just walking through the woods, not running and hiding and being, scary and creepy, just walking through the woods. It's crazy.
So do you think, Connie, I mean, in your own mindset, there's different opinions of the Yeti or the Sasquatch, whatever people term the creature. I mean, do you think it's either interdimensional, or do you believe that they are here and somehow hide themselves away from us? What's your take on that, Connie?
Oh my gosh, I do not know what they are. I can tell you this: when I very first went to the people of that were in Alabama were the ones who invited me out for the first time, and then I was hooked. But when I first went, I was on the phone with a guy. His name was Pat Rance. He gave me so much information of what to expect, what not to expect, because they wanted to know a lot more about me before I ever was taken to their spot. A lot of people. Right? Yeah, they have these areas that they have created relationships, and that's important when it comes to the Bigfoot world, relationships. And he asked me, hours of phone conversation before it was okay to bring me. And so when I got there and we found an area in the wooded area that they, were looking for, where are we going to camp? And they believed there were two tribes there. One was a little nicer than the other. And it was still daylight at the time. They were driving around. Okay. And we got out of the vehicle at one point, and he had a truck. So I got out of the truck. Most of them all do, to pull a camper or something so they can do this. But when I first stepped out of that vehicle, I got a knowing. I think some people will call it a thought placement. It wasn't particularly mind speak, because it was more of a knowing implanted in me, like a download. And it was, they are highly advanced and they're everywhere. And I always encourage people, if you get something like that, repeat it out loud, say it, make sure you got it out. And it was a knowing of, they are highly advanced and they are everywhere. And I also felt like there were like 3 or so looking at me at a certain area. And I even looked, and it looked like they were like on top of each other, like a pyramid type of look, with two down lower than the other one up above on their heads. And I just thought, there's no way that's what I'm seeing. And I said to the guy, oh, they're highly advanced and they're everywhere. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, sounds about right. And then I also said, I think there's like 3 of them over there, but they look like they're not moving, and they're kind of camouflaged together. And he was like, well, that sounds like them too. And I'm like, there's no way. But I got something immediately from them, and they were communicating me throughout many stories of that, and I have some people not believe me because they're like, I've been looking for 20 years and I've not seen her, whatever, right? And you're like, well, and you know what people say? Well, they either like you or they don't. And if you're going out in pairs hiking, you make sure that it's one of them that you think that they would like, or otherwise you won't have any experiences. And I believe that 100%. But I think they might be underground. I think they might live underground, and maybe dimensional too. I don't know. But I think an underground thing might be true as well.
Yeah, you read it. I've read a lot about also the dogmen and the werewolves as well. Certainly in the national parks where you are, the finding cases of people that go missing, under mysterious circumstances. So it does strike me that it's a case of the good, the bad, and the ugly with this. And I do believe actually in Bigfoot, as I do the dogmen and werewolves. It's interesting because we don't know, Connie, where they might originate. There's something interesting. We heard of an incident in one of the counties. I can't remember where it was, with a farmhouse, and the people had just bought the house dead cheap. It was a ranch. It was a ranch. Bought it dirt cheap, but these lights were seen in the distance. They witnessed these little glittering lights that exploded, and thereafter there were werewolves. So it makes you think, doesn't it, where they're from, whether they're interdimensional, and perhaps the same applies to Bigfoot and the dogman. But who knows? But it's just interesting. I find that quite fascinating.
I tell you, that's what's good about going to and even being able to put together the show that I do, is because more and more people will hear about it and want to say, hey, here's the creepy spot I go to. Can you do it where I'm going to be? Or, and I want to make sure they have activity before I do so, because if you're paying to be a part of my membership monthly, which is a blast, it's all people just like us in there, and everybody, they've got a good friend now that they can talk to. But if there's no activity, I don't want to just sit there in the dark or anything like that. So it is interesting that sometimes when you hear those pops in the woods, and sometimes people say that the Bigfoot do tree knocks and things like that. Well, I don't think anybody's ever seen a tree knock. I don't think anybody's seen a Bigfoot take something and hit the tree. I'm not saying they do or don't, but I just wonder sometimes, when the space shuttle would go up or down or whatever, we'd have that sonic boom. Sometimes I wonder if that's not the same thing happening when you hear knocks, if that's not something entering our realm.
Good thought, actually.
That's very interesting, Connie, because, our understanding to a degree, and we can only rely on theoretical dynamics here, is that certain entities do obviously come through some kind of opening or a gateway or what is known as a portal. And that isn't as ridiculous as it sounds, because a lot of people now are taking that seriously. And there are several, areas that we can look into. Either the Sasquatch hides out underground, I think that's a good point, or it's interdimensional. And a lot of UFO activity is normally seen, what we call UFO activity, lights in the sky. And of course, that's another area that you are very much involved in, Connie, isn't it? The lights.
Well, one of the times that we were, if anybody does join the show, there's archived shows, right? You get to see the archived ones too. And if you do, and you go to the beginning, you're going to see some of the stories where at one point we were looking for a Bigfoot. Looking for a Bigfoot, where a guy had a relationship with one there. And so it was, the first time I was up in the Rockies, it was really cool. And I'm just amazed because it's a beautiful area. But I also have heard all the stories. So I'm like, oh, my gosh, you think I'm not sure how much everyone knows about the different states. But, I'm thinking Alabama, okay. Talked with them there, had circumstances and situations happen in there. But now I'm up in the Rockies. These are huge mountains, 9,500 feet up in this, up in the sky, and blizzards happening and all these things that you would see in these movies where, people end up eating each other to survive. Right. So I'm like, man, what's it going to be like here? So it's a whole different thing, you think. And, but it's beautiful up in the Rockies. There's a blizzard that happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, when's it going to stop snowing? It's all new to me. And then it was gone like the next day. It was amazing. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And so all these strange things happening. And this particular event, this particular time that I was up there, I can't believe all the things that happened as we were hoping to, run into this Bigfoot that one of the guys had been seeing for a long time. Well, I remember sending a little bit of a mind speak to him, because I've had that happen before. I know it's real. And I had said to it from my mind, I said, I do want to see you, but I don't want to see your eyes. I'm not ready to see your eyes yet. I'm just not ready. And so I did say that and just hoped, because I was sleeping in a vehicle. I wasn't in a tent. I was in a vehicle. Everybody else was in a tent. And I had my little doggie as well, little Penny girl. She was there, and she was in the passenger seat of the truck, and I was in the passenger seat of the truck. She was in her little Betty where the driver's seat would be, because, I didn't want to have to deal with the pedals down by my feet, right? So, and the steering wheel, that would hurt. So, but it was scary because of all the documentaries I saw. There's some that people would say that, well, we broke down on the side of the road and we couldn't do anything until morning, or, before cell phones or whatever, these documentaries and these things you would see along the way. And then that's when we saw a Bigfoot and its face was right in the window. When I woke up, it's like, and so it was always like, I don't ever want that to happen to me. So I knew we were in the area of it. That was all of our plan to do, is to see this, and that it was common to do that. And so I'm the one that's got the windows all around me, and I'm just scared out of my mind. Everybody else is in a tent, and they probably have somebody with them. I know one person came later and they were by themselves, but they were like, oh, no big deal. I've camped on myself all my life. I'm thinking, you don't know what's out here, do you? So anyway, I remember waking up at one point, and I cannot tell you chronologically what happened first. It's as though something it's like putting eggs in a cup and using a whisk and scrambling it, because that's what something has done to me, no doubt. So I can't tell you chronologically what happened in what I believe was less than 8 hours of time. But during that time, let's see, I'll give you as much as I can, but don't think it's in chronological order, and forgive me if I go back to it, because it makes no sense. And anybody that's ever gone through this, they know that this is honestly the truth, because it makes no sense. And if I would think the people that do lie about these things, they try to make a story out of it. It's like, there's no story that can be made when you're like scrambled in the brain, right? There was a time where I found myself up on my knees in the middle of both of the seats within the truck, and I had my body down, like digging in the back seat floor. And I remember thinking, oh, I was so happy and everything was great. This is in the middle of the night. Everybody else is asleep. It's dead dark outside. We're in the mountains, right? Totally, nothing but a ton of aspen and evergreens around us, nestled in all this. And I all of a sudden, I need to get something for Penny, my little dog. I'm getting something for Penny, and I'm so happy in the middle of the night, and there's this light on me, and I'm so happy that this light's on me to help me find it, and I'm all happy and gay. I'm not like, right? I'm not, the other gay, what I'm talking about. I can't say that one anymore, but I'm full of joy, looking for something in the middle of the night, not tired, not groggy, nothing like that. It's freaking freezing outside, by the way. Okay, snow and ice, and I'm all just going to find something. And I sit up and I recognize, this is how I'm feeling. And for some reason, I'm telling myself this, and I'm feeling good. And I realize that there's light on me. I'm like, I'm so happy there's light on me. And then I think, the light. What? Man, I know that living in Denver, Colorado, you are it's known as the Mile High City, because you're a mile closer up to the sun than any other place. And so I'm like, well, now I'm in the Rockies. I must be even closer. So, man, that moon is so freaking bright. I love this area. This is great. And then it turned off like someone hit a switch. And I went, wow, I guess a cloud went by, and man, it just zapped it. It wasn't even gradual. It just went boom. It must have been a heck of a cloud. And so these are the things I'm thinking as to be a normal person in a normal situation. And this is how the human mind will work, right? Because you just put things together constantly. We're constantly connecting the dots in our lives to whatever's going on, right? And so I turned around, and that's all I know was that light was there, and then it wasn't. And so then the next thing I know is, for some reason, I'm up underneath the dashboard of the passenger seat. Underneath it, my hands are like in a fist, and they are under my neck, and my elbows are kind of like touching, if you can kind of resemble what I'm trying to do. So my hands are fist, and they're kind of together, and all the way down to my elbows kind of all together. And which is a weird position, like maybe they would put someone who's dead or something. You know, it's just not something that I sleep and just go, oh yeah, I'm so comfortable. But it's kind of a cuddled up, but I'm squashed up under the dashboard in the truck. And I'm not thinking anything about it. It's dark outside. I'm not thinking anything about it. But then I see that there's like some sort of light again out there. And it's a different light. It's not like the light, like the truck light must have been on, or the moonlight was on me when I was looking for this thing for my dog in the back. Don't even ask me whatever it was I was looking for, because that went away and I didn't even think anything of it anymore. So, anyway, I'm down up under the dashboard, and I'm not even thinking, why am I crushed down here at the bottom? Not thinking a word about it, nothing in my mind. And I see that there must be there's some sort of light outside the vehicle. And I remember the guy telling me that there was this big giant orb that he would see from time to time, like the size of a VW. So I'm going, this is great. I'm going to see that orb. I'm going to see a VW size orb like people talk about. I can't wait. I've never seen this. So I find myself frozen, basically, but you know how if you're frozen, and if you think about it, and if you are already into this world where you can know some things and tricks to remind yourself to do and constantly imprint it into you, so you will do it subconsciously. And that you can move your right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So you can move your eyes, right? So, okay, I can move my eyes, and I'm not going, okay, I'm frozen here. Let me think. It's not like that. It's you're just instinctual at that point, because you've already prepared yourself if these things ever happen. So, or at least me. So my eyes are moving, and I'm thinking, oh, I just got to get up over this dashboard. I didn't think it was weird that I was down in the dashboard, crushed up like I was, but I thought, I just got to get up. I got to see what this light is. And somehow I was able to push up. Nothing else was moving, but I was able to like thrust up, and I was slowly doing it, and my arms still stayed exactly where they were. And I got up enough to look through the window, and I saw what I would never, ever, ever thought I would ever see in my life. And it was a beam of light, just like you see in the movies, and it was beaming down on each one individually of each tent that was there. And there's no doubt when I was looking for whatever for my little doggy, that beam of light was on me at that time. Wow. But I saw it at different angles, you guys, and it was about 20 to 30 feet or yards in front of me and up on one of the evergreen trees. I can't remember, birch. I can't remember what the tree was. There's aspen out there, and then there's another one, and I can't think of what it is, but they have boughs like a big Christmas tree, evergreen type trees, and they had boughs. So, and it's dark. All I know, it was at the tops of it. So whatever size this thing was, where it was coming from, I don't know. I don't know if it was big. I don't think it was huge. I think it was maybe smaller, just my intuition of it from what I could see. It was pitch black, but it came from the top of those trees that were clustered together. So I don't know how big it was. I know it was dark. It wasn't glowing. It was the light that you saw. It was that beam of light. I remember thinking, boy, Hollywood nailed that. I remember these are my thoughts, being in film too. I'm like, Hollywood freaking nailed that. They nailed it. It goes back to almost the treaties that you hear about. It preparing you, and like, wow, they prepared me. That looks exactly like Hollywood. It was so white. It was blue. It was, it was so white that it was blue. It was beautiful color. A light that was beautiful. I don't get it, the beam. And I tried to see if I could see through it. It seemed clear. And I was thinking, is something going up and down? Is something traveling? Is that a staircase? What is that? But it stayed on one tent, not all that long, but it was on it. And then it stayed on another tent. Okay, so the one that I don't remember it staying on that long was like that green, thick tent, kind of those kinds of really thick tents.
Yeah.
But the other one that it stayed on, there was a couple in it. And, they were still a pretty new couple. They're in there probably snuggling away, doing their thing, whatever they did. I'm sure it was, probably interesting to watch. And maybe they wanted to watch that a little longer. But they had it was, I guess, a yellow nylon or whatever that real thin is. I think it was nylon, and it just glowed. It glowed yellow, bright. It was unbelievably bright, and the light just went right inside that tent, and it was beautifully lit. And my mind was trying to figure out what's going on here. At first, I thought, why is there a spotlight on them? Is the guy? I kind of thought maybe the guy was out and he had this huge, awesome spotlight and he was throwing it up to the top of the tree, because that's what your mind thinks. It does everything. And I don't know if they're behind that or not, by the way, but your mind tries to put it in a human way, or they're trying to put it in a human way and whatever. Then I was like, no, that light, no. That light is shining from up there down. Oh my gosh. And it was on there forever. And then it turned off as quick as it was on. And then when it went to the next one, and again, I can't tell you what order they were in, but when it went to each different one, it wasn't like a spotlight out of a helicopter and it moved to the left and moved to the right and then adjusted and, moved around. There's no sound. The beam of light it didn't move at all. When it went off like a light, just like a boom, it was off. And then it went on to the next one, boom. It knew exactly where it was going. It didn't need to go left or right to get into perfect position. Nope, it was right there. It was precise. It was gorgeous and knew what it was doing, and it had intelligence. And I remember it going to the other one at one point, the last one. There were 3 tents. And I remember it going to the last tent, and it was a guy all by himself. And I just remember thinking to myself, oh no, now they're at that one, I thought, man, poor him, he's next. That's what I thought. So now with that all happening, right, at one point, as I'm all paralyzed up and whatever, I was laying, my body is now up, still kind of like stuck together with my arms and everything, fists and all that stuff happening. And I had thrusted myself up. So apparently in between these lights or whatever, I felt like I'm like laying, like it's very uncomfortable, but I'm okay with it. Half my body is on like that thing that's in the middle between 2 seats. You can pull up, and very uncomfortable, right? There's no upholstery there. It's very uncomfortable. And I'm laying on that, and something tells me to look over, and I do. I look over at the window. Okay, so I'm in the passenger seat, right, halfway over, and then I look at the window. So I'm not that far, right? This is just a cab of a truck. I look over, and I see something that I'm not expecting to see either. It is this huge, huge head. And it's looking in the window, and it's got tousled hair. It's got a forehead with no skin. It's the biggest forehead I've ever seen. I guess they call that a 5-head, 6-head, 7-head. You've heard that before, right? Well, that was what it was. It was so wide, and it had hair. The ears were pointed, and were pointed up, tousled hair. And I was like, is that what, I remember seeing it, and I was really stretching to see it. And I kind of relaxed, and I was looking straight again, and I was like, oh my gosh, is that what I think it was? And so you can still think, even when you're frozen like that, you can still think as well. And so I looked over again, and I was like, oh, that's it. And I was really looking at the tousled hair and the skin. And of course, I had this fear inside me that, oh no, it's going to show its eyes. I don't want to see its eyes. I don't want to see its eyes. So I was like, I think that's what I think it is. And then I relaxed because it took all I had to be able to look at it. And so I relaxed again. I'm looking straight into the dashboard, and I thought, well, I'm going to look again because I got to see if it's still there. And how am I going to know if it's still there? A lot of people always say, well, I saw this UFO, and because it flew over us and the stars were blocked, I couldn't see what was over it. So, it was blocked. And then a minute later, we saw the stars again. Okay. All right. So I look over and I'm like, okay, I still see that thing that looks like this huge freaking head that I'm about to see its eyes. And I don't see anything behind it. And I know there's cars behind it. I know it's in between cars. And so I must have did this about 4 or 5 times. And then the last time it wasn't there anymore. And I saw the vehicle, and I was like, okay, there's the vehicle. I saw whatever that was. This was within 8 hours. Okay. Even before everybody went to bed, there was this like wall of little lights that were sparkling. It was really, really weird. A lot of us think later it might have been a portal.
Wow.
It was really strange, you guys. It was really strange. But I saw 2 other things that were about 4 foot tall. This was all within 8 hours. So they were like 2. Have you ever seen a flying squirrel when it's in the air and it's flying?
No,
I haven't, Connie. No.
Well, if you see a flying squirrel will go from one tree to the next, and it spreads its body out, and then like these like wings kind of, this like skin comes out and it can float, right? I saw what looked like 2 of those that were like 3 to 4 foot walking side by side holding hands.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm seeing what looks like 2 flying squirrels standing, I'm describing it just like I saw it. Who makes this stuff up, right? So this is all happening in the same place, right? I'm like, this is like some Halloween card that's got everything on it. This is just not right. How's this happening? So when the daylight hits finally, right? Daylight hits, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. I don't know what or who does it to you. And I don't know how connected the Bigfoot are or whatever I saw and the beam of light. But when daylight came around, one of the guys mentioned, I had said, hey, I think I saw, the one that you've seen all the time. I think I saw it. And I started describing it. And he goes, I think you saw exactly what we came up here to see because I never told you that it had pointed ears.
Oh.
And I was, and I was like, I said, the head was huge. It was huge. He said, yeah, it's huge. I was like, yeah. And speaking of, I had said, please don't show me your eyes. I'm not ready to see your eyes. It never showed its eyes. It showed me him, like I asked. It showed its head. It let me know he was there, but he didn't show his eyes. That's total respect. He heard me and he respected me. That was interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting that it's interesting that this is, as you said, Connie, quite rightly, it's followed with strangeness. And of course, it's not coherent, but the UFOs as well. These things are, as I said about the werewolves that materialize with the lights, this is similar, isn't it? It's something. And also when you said you're in different positions in the car, it's as if you'd lost time or you're being forced to do it. This is beyond your control.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it was freezing outside and I didn't even think about the temperature. Well, another one of the things too is I didn't even remember one of the things I've always wanted to see in life and just knew I'd never see them was those beams of light from, not like somebody shooting a little laser light. It wasn't like that. This is beams of light from the freaking something that you see in movies all the time and people talk about. And there it was exactly like it's been described before and seen. And I guess what? I didn't even think about it. I that was not even on my mind. I talked about the head in the window, and then one of the guys said, well, so and so in the tent thought he saw a light at the top of it. Now, that was the tent with the big, thick green canvas, okay? So I can imagine not much light probably did go through that. But, because it's so thick and dark, and I didn't see it glowing either, by the way, that the other one was. And I said, oh, yeah. As soon as they mentioned that to me, they said a light. I went, oh, yeah. He did see that and I acted as though I was talking about making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Oh, yeah. And I saw the light because the beam of light was on you. And then they had a beam of light on them, too, as well. It was on for a long time. I acted like it meant nothing. There was no emotion. There was no fear. There was no excitement, no enthusiasm. I'm just talking about it as if. That's weird. That's not normal. That's not right. And if he didn't say light, I would have never been triggered to remember it.
Yes, that is incredible. And talking about time, we have reached the end of the program, and I can tell you, Connie, that we have been amazed by these experiences that you've gone through, and we're definitely going to have you on our show for a part 2 at some point, Connie, because you've got so much experience. And but before we close with our program today, let people know how they can get hold of you, and also about your programs like the Blue Rock Talk TV.
Okay, so if you go to Connie, if all else fails and you forget, just go to ConnieWillis.com and go to .com, because there's a famous Connie Willis author she's not the female Stephen King. Stephen King is the male Connie Willis, but she's an author of science fiction. So if you go to if you go to .net, you're going to get her. I'm not a writer. So if you go to ConnieWillis.com, you'll see Blue Rock Talk TV. That is, Blue Rock is the earth, and we talk about all the strange things that happen. That's where you're going to get the creepy hotspots and the Bigfoot Friday and the Far Out Thursday, and that's where you guys are going to join me. That's where you can sign up, become a member, hit that. They got a coupon code for you guys to go to, get 20% off. Join it annually, monthly, be a part of the community. It's a whole community. You'll meet great people. It's safe. Tell us what you got going on too. You'll love it. It's very interactive. I also do one where you can have a drink with me called Connie After Dark, because we all talk so much. We had to do more. And I was like, you guys, man, I'm like making negative $80 an hour here. I gotta eat and turn the lights on. I can't depend on the ET to show up all the time. So, and blast it on me. But, so Connie After Dark is cool. It's a drinking, it's my virtual bar. And then, I'm actually going to do a cooking show and stuff along the way, and how to win the lottery stuff, but we'll talk about that on part 2. But so just go to ConnieWillis.com. That's where I am, and find me on Coast to Coast Radio. You guys, I've had Paul on before, and now I get to have you guys on, and I'm excited about that.
And we are looking so forward to it. And it's so amazing, because this connection with all of us as researchers are looking for the truth. And even though we're still banging our heads against the walls, we can formulate conclusions. And that's exactly why we come together, with truth, honesty, integrity, and a good sit by a campfire in the dark, in the forest or the woodland, or where the Yeti is. How brilliant will that be? So we just want to say thank you so much, Connie, for coming on our program. Ladies and gentlemen, Connie Willis, an amazing lass, and incredible, honor to speak to you, and we'll tune in with you. So we just want to say thank you again, Connie, for coming on board.
Yes, thank you, Connie. That account was quite chilling, actually, very, very chilling.
And there's more. So, hey, thank you guys very much. It was fun, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all again soon.
Okay, so you've been listening to Twin Souls, and our guest today has been Connie Willis, a very brilliant lady who's out there, and she's going to beat the paranormal to death. And so you can find all of the information below the link, and also www.ConnieWillis.com, and that will also be on the KinsellaTwins.com website, is on there on the radio section. So join up, get involved and be part of the team. And I'll just say also that, stay safe. And you've been listening to the Twin Souls in association with the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Stay safe and look to the skies